Let us not forget everything that happens is by the will of Allah. It's time to unite and stand, and we will be the best amongst men. It's not time to be extreme or usually unthinkable, but to stand together as one. Into Sunnah followers, streaming every day, various platforms. Trust me, you'll find a way. Sunnah followers.
From Sunnahfollowers. This is from Sheikh Saleh. We need to unite. Sisters, wear your hijab, wear your beards, be proud of your beards. Stay home, stay in your home. Stand up, unite, and stand for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That's right, Saleh. We all should stand up in solidarity, not transgressing the limits of Allah, but standing together with patience and understanding. This is Sunnahfollowers.
With dignity, humility, and balance.
This is Yusuf and this is Ayub. And if you are benefiting like we are from the classes and the ongoing programming, tuning into the Sunnah followers, please donate. Let this be an ongoing Sadaqah Jariyah on your behalf. You're helping the kids, the converts, and everyone seeking knowledge. And it's a wealth of information every day you tune in. Don't forget, you are being rewarded for your generous donations to keep this programming on air. You know, just like what you're hearing, put your dollar where the dollar's at, right here on Sunnahfollowers. Don't forget, donate right here to Sunnahfollowers and Sadaqah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
She came from a family of warriors, trained to defend herself and fight on the battlefield. She was the one who took a pole and struck Abu Lahab and brought about his death. Join Ustada lailanasheeba as she details the story of Fadl, the mother of Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu anha. Inna alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Welcome to our series entitled The Heroines of Islam. And alhamdulillah, of all the different classes that we teach, after my Aqidah classes, this class, along with the class on the Caliphate of Abu Bakr, have become two of the most talked about classes here at Sunnahfollowers. And the reason being, I believe, is because myself and Brother Mukhtar, we try to break down the story of these companions of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and everything that we tell you is based on the authentic hadiths, so that way you can see these people and how they were devoted to Allah and their faith. And also you get to see, too, that many of the misconceptions that exist about women and men in Islam are simply that, misconceptions. Especially when we do a story such as Fadl. And that's the woman whose story we're going to do today, the story of Al Fadl. And before I go into her story, there's a couple of things that's going to strike you about her. Number one, again, her story puts to rest the misconceptions about women in Islam. Her story is more proof that nowhere does Allah nor his messenger state that Muslim women are supposed to be invisible, because none of the female companions were invisible. The women around the prophet were just as visible as the men. They were helping to spread the dawah just like the men. They were there at the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. They were there at the Treaty of Medina. They were there for every important thing that happened in Islam, the first pilgrimage, everything. They were on the battlefield. And as many of you have now learned, the women were not just taking care of the sick. The women were also fighting, sword in hand, on the battlefield too, because that was the era in which the women lived. These were the 6th, 7th, 8th centuries. And back in those days, known as the dark medieval period, I told you, most people, in fact, all nations, they would bury their daughters alive. They only allowed a certain amount of females to be born, a certain amount just to keep the population going. But they would put their daughters to death. The ones that they decided to keep alive, they had to train them. The women of those eras were trained to work, to fight on the battlefield just like the men, because they had to know how to defend themselves. Because back in those days, whenever war was declared against a people, the victor would take the women and children as part of the spoils. So the children were trained and the women were trained. And for those women that could not train well with the sword, they became experts in poison. And the women would walk around back in those days with bottles of poison on their person at all time, because you never knew when an invasion would break out. And no woman wanted to be somebody's bed mate or prostituted. So they would carry that poison on them. So if they should become taken as a captive of war, they would slip it into the drink. They would slip it into the drink of their captor, hoping that it would kill them and they could walk away with their dignity. Okay? And many women would also drink the poison themselves and kill themselves, rather than be a man's prostitute or chambermaid. Okay? That was the era. So I've been telling you guys, these women, especially the Arab women that were allowed to live, you know, all of them were trained. They were trained to fight. They were trained to fight. They were trained to fight. That's why, as you guys learned with the prophet's wives, Maymuna, his wife Maymuna was a trained warrior. We're going to do her sister today. Salama, she was a trained warrior, and the women would be paired up and they would attach to whoever they were paired up with. Safiya, the prophet's aunt, she was the sister of Hamza. Hamza trained her. She would spar with him. Okay. Salama, she was the cousin of Khalid bin Walid. She could wield a sword just as good as Khalid bin Walid could. She sparred and was trained with him. You know, this is how it was back in those days. If you're going to keep a girl alive, because they kept some alive just to populate the earth with. But other than that, women weren't viewed as being of any value back in those days. That's why it's called the Dark Ages. Women were of no value other than, sealing a kingdom, a war booty, and that's about it. Making baby, that's it. Put them to death. If they weren't beautiful enough to be prostituted, put her to death. That's just the era in which it was. So tonight, we're going to learn about another female companion who was also a warrior. She was the sister of Maymuna, who was one of the wives of the prophet. And not only that, she was the aunt of the prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam too, by marriage, because she was the one who married Ibn Abbas. But another lesson that you're going to learn from her. And I want you sisters, I don't have to name y'all. Y'all know who y'all are. Can y'all believe it is the year 2023 and the war has already begun against Muslims? And I still have 3, not 5 no more. It's down to just 3 now. 3 knucklehead women. I still have 3 knucklehead women who are living in sin, who are shacking up. I repeat, shacking up, because that's what it is. Shacking up, living with kafir men who are not lawful for them because they're kafir, but their love for these men is greater than their love for Allah. They still living in the same house with these nasty, filthy kafir men, and they call these men their husbands. The woman I'm going to speak about tonight, y'all need to learn from her, because she left her husband when she declared la ilaha illallah, like you should have done years ago, you women. And she did not live with him for 20 years. He did not convert to Islam until 20 years after her. For those of you who don't know, El Abbas was the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even though he helped the Prophet because he loved him as his nephew, like Abu Talib, he did not convert to Islam until right before the conquest of Mecca. So this woman, his wife, had the decency to take her children, who also converted, and leave with no place to go. With no place to go, because they knew it was forbidden in Islam for a Muslim woman to be with a kafir man. And I'm going to tell you the big innovation we have today. The knuckle-headed women, the 3 I'm talking about, I ain't naming them, but they know who they are. If you ask them, why are you living with this kafir man? You know what they say? Oh, I stay in one room. Did Allah say you can do that? Did Allah say that a woman can live with a man who is not a mahram to her as long as she stays in a room? Did Allah say that? Or did Allah say you can never, ever, ever, ever be alone with any man who is not a mahram? You 3 sisters, y'all better pray that Allah does not take y'all's soul tonight. You better pray that Allah don't take your soul no time soon, because you 3 women are an example as to what the prophet meant when he said some of you will be raised up as kafir Kafir on the day of judgment. None of your good deeds accepted. None of your prayers, your fast, your nothing accepted. Because you took your desires as your God over Allah. And that's the only reason why you three women are still living with these men, because y'all love them. You can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to Allah. You can't lie to me either, because I'm a woman and I know better. I know better, because all of us women have been in situations like that. The strong can walk away and spit over their shoulder. You weak ones will sit there still doing what you women are doing, referring to these ugly men, these filthy men, these peasant men as your husbands. If you didn't want to be with them, you wouldn't call them your husband. If you didn't have no feelings for them, you wouldn't still be sitting there taking care of them. A couple of them taking care. Oh, he's sick, Layla. So, you ain't got no business touching him. You ain't got no business caring for him. This man is not a mahram to you. He's a kafir. Maybe Allah need to take his soul. Maybe that'll make you get up. You women had better fear Allah. Well, tonight's story, she will be the third companion, female companion that I've spoken about, who showed her love for Allah superseded that of a man, because she packed her little children and walked away. Walked away and said, I'll eat dirt before I stay with a kafir. When you women got jobs, you women got children that you could go live with. You women can go get your own place. But no, your love for that swine is greater than your love for Allah. And I'm going to tell y'all why I refer to these men as being swine. Because guess what, guys? All three of these women I'm talking about, not only are their husbands kafirs, but their husbands are not like El Abbas, who tried to help his nephew. Their husbands are enemies to Allah. Their husbands speak badly about Islam. Their husbands speak badly about the Prophet Muhammad. Their husbands ridicule these women for becoming Muslim. Their husbands make fun of them, call them names. Their husbands curse our Quran. Their husbands are the swine of this earth. But these women are still with them. Can y'all imagine that? That hadith about being raised up a kafir. Like I said, you sisters better pray that Allah don't take your souls. So, with that said, let me set this up and begin the journey of this beautiful female companion tonight. Let me take everything down so you guys can see. I know you guys like to take screenshots of the PowerPoints. Let me first go on to, what is this? Yeah. Zoom. Okay. Cut my camera off. Go to here. Yeah, y'all like my little background there. Okay, hold on. This is going to be Umm Fadl. Okay, I'll put her there. This is her PowerPoint, and I'm going to turn it on for you here. Put the screen this way. Yes, these sisters are married to men who hate Islam. These men are enemies to Islam. These men are swine. But their love for that swine is greater than their love for Allah. Ain't that sad, people? That in 2024, we love swine more than we do Allah. Okay, let's take a look at it. Tonight, we're going to be covering the story of Al Fadl. And I've talked about her before because when I did the story of her sister Maymuna, I told you guys about her. When I did the story of Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet, I mentioned her. And when I also did the story of Sophia, I mentioned her. But today, I'm going to go into detail about her because one of the new Shahada, in fact, it was Deborah. Deborah, this is for you. Deborah, this is for you. She asked me to please go over the mother of Ibn Abbas because she was confused between Abbas, Ibn Abbas. And by the way, guys, for the new Muslims, let me just share this. I know the names are confusing. Arabic is a different language. It's not a religion, it's a language. And the Arabic people like to refer to themselves with their nicknames. They name themselves after their oldest child. And I know it can get very confusing. But alhamdulillah, that's why you have me, you have Mukhtar, you have Dr. Jamali. That's what we're here for, to try to help you to understand. So this one is for you, Sister Deborah. The story of Al Fadl. And Al Fadl, and by the way, guys, I'm using an AI generator. One of the programs that your donations pay for that I use, alhamdulillah, I figured out how to work it. And I put in there for it to generate. All the pictures that I'm going to be using today are how the Arabic women looked in the 7th century. This is how the Arabic women dressed. This is the jewelry they wore, the makeup they wore. So every picture that I use tonight, I had it generate 7th century Medina Arabic women. So this is how these women looked. From the kohl on their eyes to the makeup on their faces to the jewelry. So again, you sisters can see that what these brothers are telling you, that makeup's haram and stuff, it's not. Because this is how the women looked in the time of the Prophet. This is how the Prophet's wives looked. This is how the women looked in the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I had all these pictures generated since I figured out how to work that program, Canva. So alhamdulillah. And today is the story of a woman who used to frequent the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She also suckled. She nursed one of his grandchildren. And she is the mother of a well-known companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now her real name was Lubaba bint El Harith ibn Hazan ibn Bujair. And she was the wife of Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib. And who was Abbas? He was the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she was his wife. She was also the mother of Ibn Abbas. And you guys know who Ibn Abbas was. I use him all the time. I use his fatwas. When you guys ask me questions about Islam, when you guys ask me to explain verses of the Quran, I will give you the explanation of Ibn Abbas because he was one of the best of the best. He was given the good news of paradise. He was the one whom the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua for, asking Allah to give him a deep understanding of the Quran. He became one of the first scholars of Islam. He became the governor over Medina, and his knowledge of Islam supersedes any mufti any sheikh, any scholar, any imam living on planet Earth today. And by the way, Ibn Abbas said, not only can a woman show her face and hands, but any makeup or jewelry that she has on her face and hands, that's his fatwa I use. Okay? So this was his mother. All right? Before before giving birth to him, she also gave birth to 5 more sons. Of course, her oldest son was Al Fadl. That's where her nickname comes from. She was also the mother of Ubaidullah, Mabad, and all of these names should sound familiar because my cousin Mukhtar has spoken about all these men. They were all mentioned before. Kutum and Abdul Rahman. And also she was the sister of Maymuna, radiallahu anha, who was one of the wives of the Prophet. And remember, I told you guys before when I did the story of Khadijah. After Khadijah, radiallahu anha, converted to Islam, this is the second woman because she and Khadijah were good friends. She was Khadijah, radiallahu anha's best friend. And when Khadijah told her that the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a prophet and a messenger, Fadl immediately converted. And she used to be a visitor at his house all the time because, again, she was his wife's best friend. And again, her husband, Al Abbas, he did not convert to Islam. He did not convert to Islam until 20 years after her. So when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Muslims left left Mecca, of course, she was no longer there either. She was not with her husband either. When Allah sent down the verses of the Quran telling the believing women that a believing woman could not be married to a kafir man, she left her husband. Unlike you dingbat women today who stay in a bedroom with your husband and still rub his back and feet and take care of him, and you ain't fooling nobody. You sexing him too. Come on, this is Layla you're talking to. All right? But in the beginning of Islam, before Allah sent down the commands saying that women could not be married to kafir men, she converted to Islam. She was the second woman. And when she converted to Islam and accepted the Prophet Muhammad as a messenger, she kept it a secret. She didn't tell her husband, Al Abbas. And remember, Abbas was a good uncle. He loved the Prophet Muhammad, just like Abu Talib did. He protected the Prophet Muhammad, just like Abu Talib did. You know, so her husband was not abusive, but she kept it a secret because she didn't want to bring no shame upon him, her husband. She tells us in her own words how one night she had a dream. And in that dream, she saw one of the Prophet Muhammad's organs or body parts in her house. She woke up and ran to the Prophet and told him the dream that she had. And he said, "This is a good dream." He said, "Your dream means that my daughter Fatima is pregnant and she will give birth to a child and you will be the one to nurse him along with your son." So subhanallah, she was so happy after having that dream. And by the way, you're going to see that every picture I use is the same woman. Because what I did, I went to my AI generator and based on the description that the hadith gives to us as to how this woman looked, they made her up. So this is how she probably looked. You know, I put that's that program that your donations pay for. Please, guys, donate. This program is beautiful. I gave them the description that the hadith says to how she looked, and you're going to see every picture I use is her, because it kept showing how that's the technology we have today. This is probably how Al Fadl looked. Okay. So here it is. She is again. It just so happened that her dream came true when Fatima radiallahu anha gave birth to El Hussein. Fadl nursed him. One day she took him to the Prophet, and the Prophet hugged the child and he kissed them. And y'all gonna recognize this hadith. He hugged the child, and the child kissed, and he kissed the child, and the little boy urinated on him. And the Prophet said, "Oh, Al Fadl, hold my son, because he just urinated on me." And then the Prophet stood up and sprayed water over the wet spot. And he said, "Wash the spot if it is urination of a female baby. But if it's just a male baby, then spray it with water." And that's where that hadith came from. That was Al Fadl. She was nursing El Hussein, the Prophet's grandson. And the baby, the Prophet went to hug the baby, and the baby urinated. And that's where that hadith came from. And by the way, I want you to look at the dress. This is how the Muslim women dressed in Medina. I put in there 7th century Muslim women, Medina dress. And that's probably how they dressed. They did not cover their faces. I keep telling y'all, it is not Arabic culture to cover the face. Okay? So this hadith is the hadith that we use today that says, you know, as long as the baby is nursing, if it's a boy, just sprinkle water over it. If it's a girl that wets on you, then wash it. But this is only as long as the baby is not eating solid food. Also, there's another hadith that when Hussein urinated, Fadl went to smack him lightly on his shoulder. And the Prophet told her, "Oh no, you've hurt my son. May Allah have mercy on you." Just playing with her, because she didn't hit him hard. She just like, "Oh no, you urinated on the Prophet." And she, hit him real softly, on the shoulder. And the Prophet said, no, don't hit him. That's my baby, my son. Just a sweet little hadith to show how the Prophet loved his grandson. Okay. Another interesting, this is the same woman. Now, this picture here, guys, was weird. I typed Fadl holding up a wooden pole, and this came up. So, this is probably how she looked. Another interesting incident in regards to Al Fadl is she was the one I told you about. She was the one that hit Abu Lahab with a wooden pole, and he ended up dying from it. Remember, I told you that she was the one that basically killed Abu Lahab, because remember, her and her sisters, the 3 sisters, they were warriors. Her, Maymuna, and the other sister were Amays. They were warriors. Listen to what Abu Rafi tells us. He said, "I was a weak man carving cups near the well of Zamzam." He was a slave. He said, Al Fadl was also sitting there. Abu Lahab came angry, and he had with him Abu Sufyan. And Abu Lahab said, "May you tell us what happened in Badr?" And that's when Abu Sufyan said, "We did nothing but give them, the Muslims, our backs to kill or capture us wherever they like. By Allah, I did not blame our army, because the people we met were different. They were white and rode white horses. This is the Battle of Badr. This is after Allah sent the angel Jibril and all the other angels. They joined the prophet on the battlefield. There were men riding white horses dressed in white. Those were the angels of Allah that Allah sent to help the Muslims at the Battle of Badr. So at the Battle of Badr, the Quraysh were defeated and they went back to Mecca. They were angry. And this is Abu Sufyan telling Abu Lahab what happened. And as they were talking about it, Abu Rafi raised the curtain and said, those men dressed in white, those men riding on white horses, they were angels. And when Abu Lahab heard this, he stood up and punched him. He punched Abu Rafi in his face. And they began to fight each other until Abu Lahab had him on the ground. Al Fadl, when she saw what happened, she stood up and picked up a wooden pole and she hit Abu Lahab on his head. She said to him, you want to beat him because you consider him weak in the absence of his master. Her husband, Abbas, was his owner. She said, pick on somebody your own size, and she smashed him in the head with her pole. After that, Abu Lahab was taken away in humiliation. 7 days later, that's when he developed the measles and died. So everybody referred to Umm Al Fadl as being the one that killed Abu Lahab. Remember, nobody bothered her and her two sisters. They were warriors skilled with the spear and the bows and arrows and poles. The Arab women, they were women of the tents. They could take a pole and work it. And that's probably how she looked when she took him out. Okay? After Abu Lahab died, a famous Jewish poet who hated the Muslims made a poem about her. And the poem doesn't make sense to us, but this is considered a sarcastic song about her. This Jewish tribe were enemies to her tribe. And this Jewish tribe also hated the Muslims. And this is the poem that's written in history that he made of her. And this poem is important because it shows that the Arab women wore makeup. I put this in here because this is from an authentic hadith, and it shows that they wore makeup, and this is how she probably looked. Listen to the poem. It says, are you off without stopping in the valley and leaving Fadl in Mecca? Out would come what she bought from the peddler, her bottles, her henna, and her hair dye. What lies between the elbow and ankle is emotion when she tries to stand up and can't. Remember, guys, we talked about how there was a Jewish poet that used to write bad poems about the Muslim women. He ended up being killed. This is him. And she's one of the women he wrote about. Listen to this poem. What lies between the elbow and ankle when it's in motion, when she tries to stand up and can't stand up. Just like Hakam. I'm going to do her story too. Just like Hakam, when she's with us, the bond between us is strong and unbreakable. She is the one Emirate who bewitches my heart. And if she wished, she could cure my sickness. The glory of women and of a people is their father. A people held in honor, true to their oath. Never did I see the sun rise at night till I saw her show herself to us in the darkness of the night. Now, this is a sarcastic poem, and it turned into a song. After Abu Lahab died, the people were so upset, the Quraysh. And of course, they were cowards. Nobody would get in her face and challenge her. So they would sing this song to try to humiliate her. And when they speak in this song about the peddler's products and the wobbling flesh, this indicates to us that Al Fadl was kind of plump. She was plump in stature, and she used to wear makeup. She used to make up her eyes and make up her face with tribal marks. Back in those days, guys, and they still do in some parts of Arabia, whatever tribe you came from, just like you Bantus, they have tribal marks. When I put in a generator tribal marks, early Medina, 7th century, this came up. So this probably was the tribal marks that the women wore on their cheeks in the 7th century Medina. They all wore kohol. They all, darkened their eyebrows. They all made themselves look like that. Y'all see where they come from? Look at those Somali traits. Look at them cheekbones. Look at that mouth, nose. Yemeni. That's where the Arabs originate from. All right. So, this poem he made, and he called her middle age. When the reality is, Fadl was under the age of 30. Remember, we talked about in another class here, back in those days, the early scholars considered anyone over the age of 30 as being middle age. The reason being because the lifespan for the Muslim is just 60 years. But in reality, guys, she was probably 27, 28, or 29. But they called her old, middle age, making fun of her because she was plump. And because she used to wear henna on her face and her hands and her hair and her eyes and stuff. Okay. Not only was Al Fadl a brave woman, but she was also extremely wise. Her understanding of the religion was profound. She was one of the women who witnessed the final pilgrimage of the prophet. Like I said, the Muslim female companions were never invisible. They were with the man, with the prophet, even on his pilgrimage. On the day of Arafat, many Muslims were confused as to whether the prophet was fasting or not. Y'all remember that hadith? Well, she was the one who offered the prophet a glass of milk. And the prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, drank the milk, and that showed the rest of the people that he was not fasting. That was her, Fadl. Okay? So you see, she's in all the history, all the hadith. Her name comes up. Now, it wasn't until right before the conquest of Mecca, that her husband, Abbas, finally accepted Islam. He converted to Islam 20 years after her. She had been Muslim for 20 years, was living amongst the Muslims in Medina, okay, left her husband, took her son Abbas with her and her other sons that converted. And when he became Muslim, that's when she finally went back to him. She finally went back to him as a wife after he converted to Islam. Al Fadl, she reported over 30, I'm going to put that in there because that's my thing, hadith. She's reported over 30 hadiths. She lived until the era of Uthman, radiallahu anha. And I talked about her too. Remember, she was with Safiya, the wife of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was with Safiya sneaking food, trying to sneak food to Uthman before they murdered him. That's when I spoke about her before too. So basically, that's the story of Al Fadl. And this is probably how she looked, because every picture I generated came up with the same woman looking like this. And I want y'all to look at the henna on her cheeks. That was evidently, this must have been the Medina, her tribe, her tribal marks, because the women would wear their tribal marks. And of course, they always wore jewelry. They always wore kohol. They always darkened their eyebrows. They always wore henna over their eyes and all of that. So makeup is nothing new. Women have been wearing makeup since Allah made Eve. All right. So that's the story of Fadl. So I'm going to stop right here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Are there any questions? I'm trying to get back to you guys. Yeah, there it is. Are there any questions about Fadl? Wait a minute. Is that me? Yeah. I'm trying to come back. Give me a second. Any questions or comments? You guys there?
I have a question.
Wait a minute. Am I showing up? Yeah, there I am. Am I showing up, y'all?
Yes.
I mean, I'm talking to the people on YouTube. YouTubies?
Oh.
Can y'all see me? We see you. Okay, good. Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you, how old was she when she died?
She had to be in her 60s because she died during the caliphate of Uthman. She was less than 30 when that Jew slandered her. So I'm going to assume that was about 30 years later. I would say in her 60s.
Okay.
Because that's what, they didn't live that much. They didn't live past the age of 60 much back in those days. Well, they didn't live past 30, to be honest. That's why they considered 30 years old middle age. But she was in her 60s most likely. Yeah.
Oh.
Right. Yeah. Any other questions? Like I said at the end, she reunited. No, we don't have to remarry in Islam. She reunited with him after he converted to Islam, but she was not with him during that time. No. But he helped the Muslims, but she was not with him. Remember when Allah sent down those commands about how a Muslim woman can't be with no Kafir man, you didn't find no Muslim women with no Kafir men like y'all got today. These women believe in Allah. They told the man, bounce. You don't believe in Allah? Adios, Jose. And they kept it moving. She did not remarry. Because she did love Abbas. And like I say, he was a good man. She just made dua. She did the same thing Zainab did. They made dua. Zainab made dua for her husband too. Remember the Prophet's daughter Zainab? She made dua for her husband and he ended up converting and they ended up being back together, So no, she didn't remarry. She just was patient. Yeah. She was a warrior. For those of you who don't know, Fadl participated in the battles. They were so busy fighting back then, she wasn't thinking about no dude. Yeah. Yeah. These were some warrior times. They didn't have time to get off into that crazy stuff that women get off into today. Yeah. Any other questions? Go ahead. Yeah, for the sister here, yes, there's nothing in Islam that says you can shack up with a man. I keep telling y'all, if I could stay in a room in a house with a man, then I need to just go on and move in with Dr. Jamali. I keep telling y'all, Ayeen, let me call her now. Ayeen, get the other bedroom ready. I'm moving in. That's haram. We can't do that. I don't know who told you crazy and retarded Muslim women that y'all can live in the same house with some dude. Y'all crazy. If that's the case, why am I paying rent? My rent is $2,000 a month. I'll just go share the bedroom next to Dr. Jamali and his wife. Jamali, tell Aeen, turn the bed sheets down. I'm moving in. Me and the cat, so I ain't got to pay no rent no more. I'll give y'all a little bit of my money to help with the expenses, but we moving in. Where do y'all women get that crap from? Y'all sick. Whoever told y'all that gonna burn right there with you. These are the days of bid'ah, the days where Islam is strange. Like the prophet said, people making things lawful that Allah made haram. A woman cannot share no house with a man, period. Dot. And whoever told you you can is a liar, and you know it's a lie too. Remember the fitra. The fitra can recognize the truth. Your heart knows it's wrong. You know that you sisters know it's haram. Y'all just looking for an excuse to stay with those ugly swine men that you married to. And they're swine. These three sisters I'm talking about, because they tell me their husbands hate Islam. Their husbands are swine. It's just that you women love your ugly swine husband more than you do Allah. You're with swine. And you're going to be raised up with them. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said in another authentic hadith, you will be raised up on the day of judgment and you will stand with who you loved in this world. So you women, you roll around with them, that swine that you living with, you're going to be raised up next to that swine on the day of judgment. And if I make it over that bridge, I'm going to point you out and say, didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you? You better get up out of that relationship, get out of that house. Hey, get the bed ready. I'm moving in. Where y'all get that sick stuff from? Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, you got to make it. Yeah, you got to make it rule. You got to make it. You got to speak to the people on their level. The sister here is telling me that I really need to emphasize this. Yeah, you got to speak to the people on their level. These women are messed up. They got these stupid men telling them that it's okay for them to stay in the same house with because they converted to Islam and their husbands didn't. They can stay in the same house in a different room. That is not Islam. I don't know where that innovation came from. It sure ain't from Allah. It sure ain't from the prophet. It ain't from none of the companions. Remember, the prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that one group, who is the saved set? The saved set. They are the Muslims who are upon what I am upon and what my companions are upon. Fadl was a companion of the prophet. Did she live in the same house with some Kafir man? Did Zainab radiallahu anha live in the same house with a Kafir man? Did Habiba stay in the same house with a Kafir man? Did Sauda stay with a Kafir man? You have to be upon what those companions were upon. Not what these 2024 internet YouTube influencers are telling you. They giving y'all shahada when they shouldn't be. They giving y'all shahada and telling you it's okay, say la ilaha illallah, and you can stay married to your kafir man. You can live in the same house, just a different room. Are you out your mind? Y'all better get it. You sisters better stop getting it twisted. Yeah, any other questions or comments? Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to stop right here. Tomorrow, I want to remind you guys, Friday, we have a special Q&A show. I have Dr. Ibrahim Jamali and Brother Muhammad Ziyada joining, and we're going to speak about the dangers of these internet influencers who's giving y'all shahadas, telling y'all can stay with these nasty swine men that were kafirs, that are kafirs. We're going to talk about that on Friday. All right. So I'm going to close out for now. The Zoom room is open. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. By the way, guys, please support us. We desperately need donations to keep our website going. Please go to PayPal me/Sunnahfollowers or scan the QR code here or go to www.sunnahfollowers.net and click on PayPal. We need donations to cover our expenses. We don't have but $300 in our account. It takes $2,000 to run this website. And y'all can see what your donations are doing. This program that I got, that we pay for, is how I got my AI generator. Y'all see that video in the background? Y'all like it? Yeah, that's from, and by the way, while I'm on here, let me test that other one I made. I made 3. This is the other one I made. Let me see how it looks. Oh, wait a minute, let me tell you. Oh, look at that, y'all. Ain't that cute? I made this one too. Yeah, that's cute. I like the fireplace. It's kind of comforting. Yeah. I'm going to go on there.
They're more cozy.
Yeah, I'm going to play with it some more and make some more. So y'all can see where your donations are going on the videos and trying to keep the website professional. So please support us. I like that one that I did earlier today too. But what that other one? That one. Oh God, yes. I'm gonna make some more too. I can play with that. I learned how to work it so I can play with it. And I like how I did all my pictures. Y'all see those pictures I used in my PowerPoint was from that AI generator I got. Yeah, from my Canva program. Yeah. I like, because it's the same woman, and they showed how she probably looked based on the descriptions of how she used to put, because Fadl was known for her makeup. By the way, guys, Fadl was not just a warrior. She liked to do hair and stuff. I would say she would be like a beautician or a cosmetologist if she were living today, because she liked to style the women's hair. You know, she liked to put on the people's henna on their faces, the makeup on them. You know, the women would go to Fadl for that. So I would imagine her that she was also a stylist, because that's what she would have bottles of makeup, bottles of henna, bottles of coal and stuff for the women to make their faces up with. So that's why the Jew made that song up about her and her bottles that she peddled, her bottles of henna, her bottles of coal, her bottles of this. That's makeup. Coal and henna are makeup. And she would like to, paint the women's faces, with the henna and do their hair. There's other hadiths that her and Aisha both like to do hair. Y'all know we talked about how Aisha, radiallahu anha, liked to do hair too. Her and Fadl. So women like to be women. Yeah, you learn so much. You get to learn how a lot of this stuff these brothers tell y'all ain't true. If you learn the deen. All right, so I'm going to close out. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta,